What's up, YouTube? Robbie Rambles back again, and today we're going to talk all about my Rolex. In this video, I want to touch on a few points overall. However, if you were just looking to see an unboxing video, you can check out my short I made, which I will link below in the description. Let's first lay out the things I want to touch on. Why I love watches and why I've wanted a Rolex since I was a kid. My experience with the ADs and why I ultimately chose this watch. And finally, why this Rolex is so important to me and truly priceless. Let's start with why I love watches. Growing up, my parents were never super strict, at least on most things. The one thing they were super strict on was being home on time. I kid you not, if we were even 1 minute late getting home, we would be grounded. Whether that was no video games for a week, no hanging out after school, or whatever other punishments they could think of. They were always incredibly strict on making sure we were home on time, and because of this, we always wore watches so that there was no excuse for us being late. Keep in mind, cell phones weren't really a thing back then, so it was the only real way to know what time it was for a 12 or 13-year-old kid. Because of this, I almost started to become numb to the fact that I was wearing them. It wasn't until I was 15 or so that I felt like I outgrew my Casio digital watch, and that's when I had an appetite for something a little higher end. Now, of course, like most 15-year-olds, my brand knowledge at the time was pretty much limited to Rolex or Casio, with no in between. And my understanding of finances was non-existent. Despite having a job, I didn't know how much a Rolex was, why they were considered a luxury item, or even what a luxury item was. That said, I can honestly say I wouldn't have appreciated a purchase like that at the time, and the feeling would have been lost on me. What isn't lost on me, however, is the understanding and the importance of time. Well, I can honestly say I was usually the first one to arrive at many parties. If you say the party starts at 8, I'm going to be there at 7:45. And don't give me a dirty look because you actually meant it starts at 9. Anyways, my point is, I understand now why my parents were so strict about arriving home on time. Having kids of my own, despite them being very young, I know I will always set the same expectation with my kids. Be home on time, no exceptions. Because the amount I'd worry, even just for a few minutes, would feel like years in my mind. Unfortunately, I lost my dad 8 years ago this July, and I never got to tell him that I get it now. He never met my kids, or my wife, or even seen me at my current job, which have now been working for almost 7 years. That said, for reasons I'll get into later on in the video, I now know he is watching down on me and my family. Let's get back on topic though. What was my experience like going through an authorized dealer? Well, it depends on the dealer. See, I've been wanting a Rolex for quite a while and had started my journey into acquiring one at retail way back in 2020. Since then, I had been on the list with 3 different authorized dealers across the province. All 3 of them neglected my follow-ups and quickly seemed to lose my number. The most recent bill attempt initially looked quite promising. Shortly after my wife and I found out that we were expecting, I went to an AD and told them the significance of the watch, and if I could somehow get one in time for my daughter's birth, it would be incredible. I heard back a couple times through emails, but then never heard back after the first few weeks. So fast forward 2 years, and my wife and I decided to sell our condo and purchase a house. We also finally have a date set for our long overdue wedding. I chose August 31st because it was a day right between my dad's birthday, August 30th, and my mom's birthday, September 1st. We go to another AD, this time one I had never really paid much attention to. I tell the lady I'm looking at purchasing a Rolex, and we sit down to try some of the in-store models on and pick which ones I like best. Now, all this time I was thinking of 36mm Datejust because I thought they were easier to get. She corrects me and says the 41 looks much better on you. We then go through and I select my top 3 dial choices, a Jubilee bracelet and a smooth bezel. The smooth bezel because the fluted bezel just feels a bit too flashy for me. I appreciate the subtle elegance of keeping my Rolex simple, to the point where not everyone is going to know it's a Rolex. Anyways, she asks about important dates coming up, and I said if you can pull off a miracle, our wedding is in 3 months on August 31st. She laughs and says it won't be that soon, but to expect a call when one comes in. I had, of course, heard all this before, but still thanked her for her time and remained in touch through email on and off. Fast forward to August 30th of last year, and my wife is out making last-minute wedding plans, and I get a call. It's the lady from the AD. When were you getting married again? Tomorrow. Well, would you like to come in today then and pick up your new watch? And at this point, I had already purchased a watch which I felt would be perfect for the wedding. I really wasn't expecting this call. But the opportunity to get a Rolex at retail was something I couldn't pass up. Okay, I'm going to stop myself right here really quick. While I'm editing the video, a few things I forgot to mention. I actually had no purchase history with this AD either. So I have had no purchase history with any AD. And what's even crazier is with this AD, I got the Rolex in less than 3 months. Anyways, just wanted to interject really quick. Let's get back and finish the rest of this video. So I call my wife, tell her I got the call, and together with the kids, we go down and pick up my first and honestly probably only ever Rolex. So why was this so special? If you remember, August 30th was my dad's birthday. At that time, I was already going through a lot with him not being there to see me get married. Getting the call the day before my wedding, on his birthday, being in his favorite color, gray, it just felt like it was a wedding gift from him. I'll never sell this watch, and it means more to me than any other Rolex or anything else that money can buy. For the same reasons, I haven't purchased another watch since this one. I feel blessed to be able to say this, but I have my Grail piece, and nothing will compete with it. The story, the experience, the weight, multiple weights, and yet here I am today with something I will eventually pass down to my kids, but not just as a watch, as a story too. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. This was an emotional one for me, and I really appreciate it. I'll be releasing another short on this watch later in the week, this time to the song my wife and I shared our first dance to. Until then, I'll see you all in the next one. Bye for now.